Will we have a better Final Four than the Final Four we got here in the SEC tournament as the tournament goes 1, 2, 3, 4 with Auburn facing Tennessee tomorrow, and then of course Florida and Alabama have a rematch in the semifinals as well. But there was a ton of great action in the quarterfinals. We're going to recap that action today on the show. Plus, with Texas falling out, the question of the bubble is very real right now. Let's get an update on where the bubble's at, who's going to be sweating it out on Selection Sunday, and everything else. And we'll also take a look at that number one seed race. That is today and more on the Hoops Southbound Show. Everybody, and welcome back as we do our SEC tournament recap here every night. I say every night. I'm going to apologize for missing last night. That double OT game for Texas and Texas A&M really threw off the whole schedule. Next thing I knew, it was 1 o'clock in the morning, and I was like, I got to go work tomorrow. And yeah, did not work out well. I love the final shot by a takeaway for Kentucky beating Oklahoma there in the second round, but we're back for the quarterfinals. Let's catch you up on what we missed and everything else. We're going to skip over the quarterfinal games because we're obviously know who's in, or not in the quarterfinals. Skip over the second round, go into the quarterfinals where we are. Let's start, Maddie, with Ole Miss and Auburn. This is a game Ole Miss got out early in this one, kind of made everything a little bit scarier than everybody might have anticipated. But eventually, Auburn took control in this game in the later half of the first half. Up and down, quite a game and a huge game for Janai Broome. Your thoughts in this one?
Yeah, this was actually the only game I had a chance to watch a little bit of today. But the consensus from the bits and pieces I did see was Janai Broome still dominant. He's still
Double
leading
double.
National Player of the Year race, 23 points, 15 boards. I mean, he had almost as many rebounds as I feel like Ole Miss did throughout the whole game. Like a large portion at least. And then, backcourt playing well. Also, we got Denver Jones at 13 points, 2 boards. And then obviously, Ole Miss kept this game interesting. Malik Dia and Jalen Murray both with 10 points each. It was a lot of kind of one of those spread the love games for Ole Miss. You had everybody contributing, but unfortunately, it still wasn't enough to get that win over Auburn.
No, it just wasn't enough. And it was also a game where neither team just had their offense clicking. If Ole Miss's offense was just a hair better, a little bit, here and there, they might even beat Auburn. Auburn looked incredibly beatable in this basketball game. It was a situation where Ole Miss offensively just did not have it in this one. I guess Sean Padula had his best shot of the season, his game winner already used up, but it's a tough matchup anytime you go against Auburn because they're a good defensive team too. So I mean, Ole Miss just missing some offense on a bad offensive game for Auburn overall. But you're right, Janai Broome, key player in this one. Another double double going to his credit this season. He just keeps racking them up like it's nobody's business. Elite performance from him. But yeah, Auburn ends up outlasting Ole Miss in this one in what's a pretty tough fight, showing they've got a huge matchup coming ahead. They should be now with this win the number one overall seed for the NCAA tournament. I don't think that should be in doubt anymore at this point. Let's move on to the next one because the next one had significant impact on the NCAA tournament, and at least a team who's going to be sweating it out on Sunday afternoon when we get into Selection Sunday. Tennessee ends up taking the win over Texas 83-72. Texas probably needed to win this game to help improve their standing. Now there's some sweat. Now there's a little bit of worry about the bid stealing situation that's going to be remaining. But yeah, it's just one where Texas doesn't have enough firepower to keep up with Tennessee at the end. Texas never led in this game. Tennessee had its largest lead at 15 points. Chaz Lanier, huge game, 23 points, goes plus 12 in this one. Zakai Ziegler, 19 points, plus 15. Meshack, excellent defensive performance in this game, but he also picked up 13 points, 7 rebounds, 4 assists, and goes plus 5 for the Volunteers. They're going to face Auburn tomorrow. They're in that hunt for a number one seed. But Maddie, your takeaways from this game, there's two ways to look at this. Tennessee still in the hunt for that one seed. We're going to be worried about Texas on Selection Sunday.
Yeah, I mean, if we talked about it all season, Texas's defense is just a little bit shy of where they need to be, and it showed out in this game. I mean, especially when you look at Kai Ziegler got 6 assists, and this one just felt like he had control of the ball, getting it wherever he wanted it to be, that floor general that we talk about. And then, like I said, Texas's offense is nothing to turn your nose at, but they're going to have to put it together on both ends, especially if they make it and get their name called on Selection Sunday. Because against this elite Tennessee defense, you can't rely just on that offensive power. Caden Cedric, 14 points, Jordan Pope, 14 points, and obviously mentioned Trey Johnson. But even an all out effort from pretty much everybody involved isn't going to cut it if you aren't going to put in the defensive work as well.
3 games, 4 games, 5 games. It was always going to be a tough ask to see how far Texas could go to help themselves. The problem is now for Texas is that they can't help themselves any further. They just got to wait. The good news is that everything else outside of them so far is going in their favor. And we'll talk more about that here in just a minute. But yeah, they're in a position now. Tired legs could not get themselves through. They're in a position now where they're in waiting. Tennessee is going to try to make a case over these next couple of days to see if they can be the best number two or a number one seed for the NCAA tournament. We're going to find out. It's a tall order for Tennessee to get there, but they've got the definitely the opportunity ahead for them when they face Auburn. We'll get into that also in a little bit. But another team that's searching for that number one seed in the NCAA tournament, they probably have it right now. Florida Gators get revenge against Missouri after that loss they had in Gainesville earlier this season. And Maddie, Gators win this one 95-81. My big lesson in this one is this: Florida has dude after dude after dude after dude who can hoop. My goodness. You talk about Walter Clayton, 18 points, Elijah Martin, 17 points, Hauk, 16 points, Will Richard, 17 points. Alex Condon is a point short and 2 rebounds short of a double double. And then you just keep going down the list. These guys had incredible plus minuses. Really good game for the Gators, 61% from the floor against Missouri. Maddie, your takeaways?
I mean, Gators absolutely on fire, shooting almost 62% from the floor. Mizzou didn't stand a chance. I mean, another team that we've talked about their defense being better this season, but also still a little lacking. And if you're gonna let a team get almost 62%, you're gonna have to shoot better than 25% from three.
You're going to have a bad time.
Yeah. It's especially when that's a lot of what you rely on is those 3-point field goals. But Mizzou shooting 25%, but them allowing Florida to shoot 37 and a half from three, and like I said, almost 62 from the field. They had no chance in this game.
Yeah, it really was a game that Florida came out and every option that they could pick worked. They had a heck of a game, and you could just tell how good Florida is. They're an excellent basketball team, and when they're shooting and playing like that, yeah, they look like national championship title contenders, and that's going to be the question: are they quite there? They're pretty darn good. If they're not, they're in that contention race. They've shown you they can get some big wins. They got out and took care of business against Missouri, and they got a huge game that they're going to be having on Saturday in the semifinals coming up. But let's talk about that other game. The last one, the nightcap, Kentucky and Alabama. First half, pretty competitive, looked fun, looked like a promising basketball game. Second half, well, I don't know where Kentucky went. But it sure wasn't defense or offense when they were playing in this game of basketball. They were doing something. I know injuries played Kentucky in this one, but Alabama wins it 99-70. They came out of the locker room on pace to put up almost 130 points at one point coming out of the locker room. They were on fire. That's not hyperbole, by the way. They were on pace at the rate that they were scoring points per minute to put up 130 on Kentucky. Insane, and just playing bad defense from the Wildcats. Maddie, I know they had a heck of a game last night and everything else, and a big dramatic one. And like I said, the injury situation is real for Kentucky right now with Lamont Butler and Jackson Robinson out and all the other injuries they've been picking up along the way. They need to get healthy for the NCAA tournament, but Alabama looked the part of a team in the hunt for a one seed.
Yeah, for sure. So I was about an hour away from home, checked the score of this game. I was like, okay, it's a pretty good ball game. I'm sure by the time I get home, I might be seeing it go to overtime or something. And you texted me about 20 minutes into that drive. You were like, holy cow, this is atrocious. And
This
I was
is
like, whoa,
bad.
whoa, what? And then you started explaining to me, and in my mind, it was just a complete train wreck
In
based
the
off.
first half, like the way I just really needed to explain this is that Alabama was getting looks, but they weren't hitting. And so you just had this vibe if you were a neutral observer like myself. Like I saw Kentucky fans on Twitter going, "We're in this. We're in this. We got a really good chance. We just need to stop it and run." Um, if you were a neutral observer, you were just sitting there going, Alabama's about to uncork on them if they start hitting these shots. And I think I texted you that is like, if they can hit a couple of threes, this thing can get ugly fast. And boy, did it. And yeah, that was I think I texted you something that's like Alabama came out of the locker room, had their offense completely figured out, started hitting shots, and they got Mark Pope cussing on the sidelines. It was bad, that kind of bad. So, Kentucky's got to get healthy. Kentucky's got to get healthy. They got to figure some things out for the NCAA tournament coming up. They're probably going to be sitting at a 3 seed. I think they're out of the conversation at this point for a 2 seed. I know they were floating in there for a little bit. I think that's kind of been I think that's over at this point. So I think it's going to be a 3 seed situation for Kentucky. Let's see who they're matched up with in the NCAA tournament. More interestingly, who's going to be the six they have to deal with. But Alabama, this is a quad one win. Check the box. And they got a huge opportunity on Saturday in a head to head with a team that they are neck and neck with, really, for the chance to get a 1 seed. Anything else before we wrap up these game recaps?
I'm excited to watch some basketball because I have a feeling that what we're going to see tomorrow is going to be, depending on where the brackets shake out, we might see some similar matchups deep into the tournament.
We might. You were telling me about that, and it does kind of ring a bell to 1985, does it not? Some really darn good teams and some very good teams here who maybe did not have the best night, who may be a team that you're not really looking at right now, making a run for the Final Four. Who knows? Happened in 1985. Certainly can happen again. I will also say just one more note here on this Kentucky Alabama game. First time in program history, if it's accurate from the source I just read up on, first time in program history, Alabama beats Kentucky 3 times in a row in a single season. Um, that's remarkable. We are at the pinnacle of Alabama basketball right now. Nate Oates, best it's ever been. Best it has ever been. Golden age in Tuscaloosa. Let's jump to destination San Antonio. First off, let's get everybody caught up. This conversation is obviously going to shift going into the last 2 days of the tournament, where it's going to be about 1 seeds and top seeds and everything else. Let's look at the bubble situation one last time. Our last bubble team being eliminated from the tournament at this point, and that would be Texas today. The situation currently on the bracket matrix is that the cut line has drastically moved since the last time we talked, and there is a basketball game going on as we record right now that may move the cut line from 4 to 3. It was at 7 last time we talked, or 7 or 8. So there are 4 teams that we're just waiting on to see results for that are going to be sweating it out on Selection Sunday. And you can see here on the grid right now, past the safety line, Arkansas in 109 out of 109 brackets reporting right now to the bracket matrix, averaging a 10.09 for their seed, looking like a pretty solid 10 seed coming in if bracketologists are right. Oklahoma pretty much right there, the same 109, 10.17 for them. Vanderbilt also looking like a 10 seed, 109, 10.38. Those teams all look like they are past the safety line and not going anywhere. This is being an update after their most recent losses. The next 2 teams right here above the safety line with Indiana and San Diego, those teams have taken losses, but it's kind of a curious case because we need to wait to see what happens with VCU and UC San Diego. But the real conversation, Maddie, are the 2 teams that the bracket matrix has in, but we're not 100% sure. And they are going to have to wait to see how this the bid stealing situation goes, and if their committee actually favors two of the teams who are currently outside right now. That's Texas and North Carolina. Texas is currently in 70 brackets with a seed average of 11.36. North Carolina in 72 brackets with 11.44. Maddie, I'll ask you real fast. I know this is an SEC show, so we have a biased answer already. Um, who do you put in, Texas or North Carolina?
I mean, trying to look at completely unbiased, depending on who you ask TV network execs, I think they're going to go North Carolina because they think the ratings are going to be better. But if you ask people who actually watch basketball, you've got to go Texas. I mean, you look at the resumes, you look at the level of difficulty. To me, Texas is going to be the more well-rounded, battle-tested team that is going to make the tournament more interesting.
Well, there are two metrics here also I look at. You've actually got to win your quad one games, and a quad one of 1-12 for North Carolina doesn't move the needle for me when Texas has six more quad one wins. I want to remind people teams have made the tournament with six quad one wins. I don't think you put a team in with only a single quad one win in the tournament, especially one that lost to a Duke team without Cooper Flag today. I think that on a neutral floor. So I don't know about all that with North Carolina getting in, and then they have a quad three loss, unlike Texas, who has no bad losses on the season. Texas clearly played in a league that was a lot tougher. If I'm looking for the first team to eliminate in a bid stealing situation right now, I'm taking out North Carolina. So that would be where I'm at. If anything, maybe both these teams get in and we see a matchup in Dayton. Maybe the committee doesn't like San Diego State. Maybe we've seen that last year they did not like the Mountain West as much as bracketologists thought. Same thing with maybe the situation is for Xavier getting in over North Carolina, unlike the bracket matrix has. But it is a curious situation right now. So these two are going to be sweating it out. One more game that they need to keep an eye out for is this is the big result of the night is that Boise State beat New Mexico 72-69. Number one seed or number one team in the Mountain West, New Mexico. They were the first team to lock up an NCAA tournament bid. That's one to pay attention to. And then also, as we're recording, you guys need to follow up on this one in the morning. Is Colorado State is currently leading Utah State. That would be significant. So there are two teams right now in the Mountain West who are out there fighting to get a chance at the NCAA tournament. Right now, according to the bracket matrix, Boise State, the second team out. So it is a curious situation. But let's also talk about some other things that you need to watch out for. I mentioned Colorado State. If they win the Mountain West Conference, they certainly can come in and steal a bed. That's the last one who can do that from an resume auto bid situation. As far as there's three other tournaments you need to keep an eye on. If anybody but Memphis wins the American Conference and results in a bid stealing situation, same thing with the Big West. If UC San Diego doesn't win it, there's some talk about UC Irvine getting in, but I just don't necessarily see it. They had a great season and they have a good resume. It's tight. But right now, the way the bubble's shaking out, I don't think the Big West is going to be a two-bid league. And then the Atlantic 10 had Dayton lose today. So VCU must win the Atlantic 10 in order for there not to be a bid stealing situation there. We'll see if the Atlantic 10 is a two bid because VCU's got the resume to maybe squeeze into the tournament. I don't know necessarily. Atlantic 10 is one of those also that's too close to call. But you would really like those to go chalk if you're a Texas fan and see the favorites end up winning those three tournaments. Also, if you're looking for a one seed situation right now, well, no, look no further than the SEC tournament. But outside the SEC tournament, fans need to keep an eye on Houston and Arizona tomorrow in the Big 12 championship game. And then maybe keep an eye on Duke and Louisville and see how the committee reacts to that championship game out in the ACC. That might open the door, shake up the one seeds a little bit. Both those teams right now, Houston and Duke, projected to be one seeds. Keep an eye out for that. Maddie, let's jump to our own tournament because the SEC semifinal is awesome. It looks great. this is as good as the Final Four. If the teams had, a week to prepare for the game and everything else. But, and team wise, the ones in here, I mean, it might be better than the Final Four based on this. Your thoughts on that, really quick? I mean, like, good grief, this field's ridiculous here going chalk at the end.
Yeah, we've talked about it before. It just seems like these top tier teams in the SEC are in a completely different class. I mean, I feel like you could almost take like a uh not Pro Bowl, but like an all-star weekend of all other conferences and put them against these top four SEC teams. And I feel like they still might get dominated. Like it is crazy the talent, the level of basketball these teams are playing at. It's something I feel like we've never seen before from one conference.
I will say this. I think the SEC semifinal games are better than both those championship round games I mentioned for the ACC and Big 12 tomorrow for
Mhm.
their championship games. I mean, Florida versus Alabama definitely moves the needle a lot more to me than, Duke and Louisville right now.
Yeah.
Louisville's a better basketball player. Historically, Duke and Louisville would be legit. But like, this year, I mean, Louisville's good. They're not unbelievable. They don't look like an Elite Eight team to me at minimum, like all four of these teams. I could easily see all four of these teams here in the SEC making the Elite Eight. I can see any of them making the Final Four. They're all good basketball teams. So, I mean, the games here in the SEC are great.
Mhm.
This week, here Saturday and Sunday that we're going to have. These last three games to close the tournament are insane. Let's jump to Auburn, Tennessee. Maddie, your thoughts on this one? Last time these two got together, it was a darn good basketball game overall and a defensive matchup that went really crazy there in Neville when Auburn won 53-51 in the jungle. Ken Palm's got this one looking like it might go in a similar fashion. What's your thoughts here?
Yeah, so this game, based off of what we saw from Auburn today, I think this is where Tennessee has to, take this with stride and they could beat the number one team. Like I think that is very likely in this game, especially if you see a Tennessee team that played like they did today, come out tomorrow and put pressure on Janai and Broom, put pressure on some of that backcourt, and play the elite defense that they're used to. Get somebody to score other than Chaz Lanier, they're golden.
I mean, I think Tennessee is capable of beating Auburn. They've certainly showed us that they can do that. They were certainly close when they went to Neville last time. I think the thing is with Tennessee is their offensive consistency, and I think that's always going to be the question because when they're shooting and when they're playing good basketball, they look like a great basketball team. Their defense is the best in college basketball at the end of the day. So, I mean, that's going to give Auburn problems to begin with. It did last time.
Mhm.
However, it's all going to come down to Chaz Lanier, Jordan Gainey, and Zakai Ziegler and how they play on the offensive end of the floor. If they're playing at that level, I think, yeah, no, it becomes an extremely difficult matchup for Auburn. On the other side of that, Auburn's got offense. They did not play their best offensive game today against Ole Miss. They've got a lot more offense than what to show than what they did last time. So I don't know. This is a tough one for me to call. I will say that Auburn's got the number one seed locked up. Tennessee's in the fight for it. I think that's the biggest intrigue in this game when you talk about tournament situation and everything else. I like Chaz Lanier, to have a good game. I also like guys like Janai Broom to have a good game, and same with Jahad Pettiford. It's really close. Kim Palm's got this game 72-69 at 61% going to Auburn. Maddie, I just make your call here. Who's going to be in the championship game?
You know what? I think I'm gonna go with Tennessee. I think I talked myself into it, mainly because I feel like they're better, well-conditioned team to make it down the stretch.
I think the depth for Auburn's a little bit better overall. Tennessee's had those kind of issues this season. I'm going to go Auburn, and let's see how this thing shakes out in the end. Let's go to the last one here. Definitely, you listen to some other shows. It's been talked about this game. being set up for Alabama, Florida, winner take a number one seed, probably, depending on how the selection committee is paying attention in this last game. Florida got best of Alabama last time in Coleman 99-94. Matt, are you expecting another game like that? What are you expecting in this one?
I feel like Florida is gonna. I don't want to say run away with this one, but I feel like they're gonna put a lot more pressure on Alabama, um, than in the last game. I think Florida is, like I said, fighting for that number one seed, and I feel like they've got a little bit more fight in them.
I think it comes down to Alabama's defense and the level of defense that they're going to play at because we've seen it at times it be very good. We've also seen at times it be very questionable. Florida's been a little bit more consistent this season, but we've steadily seen Alabama get better and better throughout the year. They've certainly responded after that Florida meeting last time with the win and Auburn, and then this dominant performance over Kentucky here on the round in this quarterfinal round. So maybe they've got a response outside the last two losses this season were Tennessee and Florida. They had a seriously hard and difficult way to close out the season this year. Alabama to me is in a pretty, they've had a tough stretch of games here, but it's only making them stronger in my opinion. And additionally, that 3-point shooting has gotten a hair better. Not there yet to the level they want to be at, but a hair better. Maddie, just real quick, who's your pick? Kim Bob's got this game going to Florida 88-85 at 61%.
I'm gonna go with the Gators on this one.
I'm going to go Alabama, and I'm ready for a round three between Auburn and Alabama in the final. But we've talked about this on Sunday. Like, we both think Florida is definitely a good team to win the tournament. I was just throwing out that other scenario. I like Alabama Auburn as a closing chapter to this season in the SEC. I think that's a fun one there in the SEC
Um,
tournament championship game. Might as well have a third go around with both teams winning on each other's courts this season. Who can win it in the neutral site? Like that. That to me is the dream on how to finish this year up. I think that's the best way to do it. All right, guys. If you have not already, please like and subscribe to the Hoops Southbound Show. We will hopefully get a show in pretty quickly tomorrow after the games. If not, it might be a minute, but we'll get something put together for y'all one way or the other and have it out. I don't know if Maddie will be joining. We've got a lot going on Saturday, but we'll be watching some hoops and we'll talk about it when we get back. But please like and subscribe. Join us for the recap of the semifinals. And then Sunday, it is, of course, our Welcome to the Madness show when we will do everything after Selection Sunday. I'll see you guys very soon.
Thanks, guys. Have a great day.